Eventually, when you're enabling developers to access production environments, you're kind of having a new surface of attack here. So how will you create a workflow which maintains the organization's security workflows? And even further, the messaging and how you simply penetrate into the organization in real production environments. Everyone who is hearing about our concept sounds, from one hand, very magical, but on the other hand, very intrusive. My name is Ilan Peleg, and I am the CEO here at Lighten.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries who share in the critical moments of what it takes to change an industry and build and lead a team that has your back. I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how Ilan Peleg created the best friend for developers, helping them to observe their applications. All this and more on Code Story. Ilan Peleg is 29 years old and has been a long-time middle-distance runner. He previously ran the 800 meters and served in the Israeli army as a professional athlete. At the age of 21, he retired and started his tech career. He said that there are many who would correlate their Israeli service area with their professional success. He just recently got engaged, and he proposed to his fiancé outside of Tel Aviv on a cliff in the same spot where they had their first kiss. Generally, he enjoys sports and athletics and sees it has a positive effect on how he manages his team. He also likes to travel and stay educated on the topics that he follows. Ilan and his co-founder were developers in many different types of companies, startups, enterprises, etc. It seemed to them that it was easy to debug and troubleshoot applications in development, but found it very difficult to observe applications in production. They realized that most developers were not equipped with the right tooling to troubleshoot and understand live applications in the wild. This is the creation story of Lighten.
So Lighten is in the mission to become the best friend of the developers, helping them to better observe, understand, and debug live applications. 2 years ago, myself and my partner in crime, Leonid Blufstein, who is the CTO and the co-founder of the company, we both been developers in both enterprise organizations and environments, as well as some successful startup companies which were acquired. And it felt to us that we simply were not equipped with the right tooling to be able to troubleshoot, debug, live applications running in the wild. It seemed to us that when you're developing, it's much easier to debug and troubleshoot applications in dev. And it seemed to us that from one hand, under this DevOps culture that is emerging, sudden developers also own reliability and are in charge of debugging and testing rather than the old workflow where the developers simply had to develop and then there are some support engineers or operators maintaining the production application environment. So now in this, we all know the infinite loop of DevOps as we imagine it. So from one hand, the gap between development and production widens. But on the other hand, developers simply are not equipped with the right tooling to debug these live applications running in the wild. So what we kind of aim is to a better world where developers are being able to troubleshoot and understand live applications running in the wild in the same ease of use as they're doing with development applications in dev. We call it shift left observability. We claim that the current observability stack is based on this, I would say, ancient kind of paradigm of log everything, analyze later. Again, developers have to predefine all the logs, metrics, traces they want to collect from live applications, right? And then this software is being shipped to production, and there's so many tools out there which assist you to aggregate huge amounts of data, correlate it, analyze it, visualize it. But they all of them, they are concentrated on the right bound of the SDLC. They are mainly targeting operators. So we're being inspired by companies such as Snyk, who shifted left security, and HashiCorp, who shifted left operations. And now for us, it's time to shift left observability. And what it practically means is, I know developers are listening to this podcast as well, so sorry for being very technical here, but suddenly developers are being able to connect to live applications, and while they're still running in real time, during runtime, create an ops-free process and allow them to add new logs, metrics, traces to live applications. And by doing so, they're simply being able to troubleshoot applications much faster and, generally speaking, understand their behavior. So again, this is where we started 2 years ago. Now we are proud to mention that we already secured almost $30 million under funding. The latest round was led by Insight Partners 5 months ago. We're now 30 employees, but we're gonna double this number by the upcoming three quarters from now, operating from Israel and the US as well. So this is very briefly, very recently named as Gartner Cool Vendor, and I think that we see a very good reaction from the market, with regards to our new approach.
Well, let's dive into the first product you built. So tell me about the MVP, the first, version of the product. How long did it take you to build, and what sort of tools did you use to bring it to life?
For the context, our main product allows developers to connect from within their own IDE to live applications running in the background, and add new logs, metrics, traces. So within their IDE, they're being able to choose a very specific line and decide what kind of pillar of observability, whether it's a new log, metric, trace, and stuff, they're willing to add. It requires us to develop a new plugin for IDE rather than the main technology which assists us in instrumenting new code at runtime. So what we've decided to do, simply because we know developers, they're not so spoiled with regards to user interface. At least this is how we see it. So our MVP was a CLI, actually, a command line interface, which triggers this API and assists developers in the main functionality of adding new logs to runtime applications in real time. So the MVP, again, was not around adding all three pillars of observability from a very native, plugin on top of IDE, but it was a CLI, and the only command that was being able to be triggered by developers is add new log. So this was our MVP, and the idea was better understanding how developers are reacting to this capability, how they're using that, and what's next.
Got it. So the MVP was a CLI version of the product connected with the API. When you were building that, you probably had to make certain decisions, and it sounds like one of them, a big one, was start with the CLI. But dive into some of those decisions and trade-offs that you had to make, in the short term around feature cut or technical debt or anything like that. And tell me how you coped with those decisions.
A few decisions that came to my mind right away. First is like security. Eventually, when you're enabling developers to access production environments, you're kind of having a new surface of attack here. So how will you create a workflow which maintains the organization's security workflows and generally speaking the whole compliances that the organizations are being forced to maintain, and even further, the messaging and how you simply penetrate into the organization in real production environments, because everyone who is hearing about our concept, I'm saying concept and not product, but the concept sounds from one hand very magical, but on the other hand very intrusive. So I'd say that at the beginning, we had to cope with this struggle of how we persuade organizations to, apply Lighten's product in real sensitive production environments. And what we've done is a really thorough process of understanding how we're gonna mitigate the whole, concerns that might rise up when dealing with the heavy regulated enterprise organizations out there. And sounds silly, but we didn't have a really nice interface at the beginning, but we truly had a really thorough and serious management server or management UI, which allows the operators to enforce security and privacy controls, as well as gain visibility of the all access, who is gaining access to which service, which environment, under which permissions, allowing developers to instrument new logs, but verifying at the same time that all the insertions are read-only and we do not change anything in the original flow, original behavior, or state of the application. So it somehow correlated to the previous question of defining the MVP. From one hand, it was pretty clear for us that the early adopters wouldn't mind to use our CLI version, and within time we're gonna optimize the user experience, right? But it's gonna be a must-have capability to support their security and operational controls. So this was one challenge at the beginning, because from one hand you're suggesting a product for production environment, but on the to assisting them troubleshoot production environments, but on the other hand you still want to maintain their current resiliency and stability and integrity of the production application.
Well, then from that point, then, you mentioned the 3 pillars, and, you started out one way, got the MVP, made your decisions and trade-offs. How did you progress the product from there and mature it? And to give context to that question, kind of put it in a box, how did you build your roadmap and, decide or go about deciding this is the next most important thing to build?
Myself, Leonid, and the majority of the company early days mostly we were developers. So based on our experience, it was pretty clear for us what should be the MVP. Now what happens next is you should be able to deploy this MVP with real environments, real customers, or let's call it design partners. They were not yet paying customers. And we simply learned so much from this process of working with design partners. Once we installed the product with real, within real environments and real users in real production environments, it kind of became an obvious process of how we're gonna enrich our roadmap. We simply received so many feedback, so many feature requests, more tactical way, but strategically, we simply better understand the workflow of how developers want to access production environments. Again, from one hand, limited, because you want to limit their access, but on the other hand, how you enrich the information they want to gain from application, from live application. And again, at the same time, while you're enriching them with more data, you're still maintaining the services reliable. So just to summarize the answer, listening to customers. It's the main, guidance for us. As well as you cannot only listen them. You should have some sort of your domain expertise, and you should also suggest some stuff and as hypotheses and test them. So I think the combination of both is how we've built that at the beginning.
Right. You're combining your product vision with the feedback of the users that you have. How are you aggregating and collecting that feedback? What process do you follow to get the feedback from those users?
So now we are a much more established company. So we have processes, okay, which we didn't have in place before, but now we already have some, like each customer of Lighten, I'm going to talk about the community layer as well, but each customer of Lighten simply has a Trello board where he can list feature requests, bugs, and then he also has some transparency from our end, where we prioritize it, and he's being notified about progress with each ticket. So it's very much organized. We also have a free tier that is being treated very nicely. It's strategic for us, and we also listen to the free community users as well. Before that, we were managing like very internal conversations, and I can say that we tried to, at the beginning you have much less manpower, so you cannot develop everything, and you also have less customers, so it's very easy to develop something for a very specific customer, but eventually it's not going to be relevant for the mass market out there. So when you lack customers, you can be very biased, and it's dangerous. So what we've tried to do is engage with the dev community, even that point when we simply didn't have any paying customers or some formal engagements. We still wanted to back our hypothesis, not only with the feedback we gain with these design partners, but also with the dev community out there, to make sure that we're not biased on these very specific customers.
Well, let's switch to team. So how did you go about building your team, and what did you look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you?
At the beginning, the main hiring process was how we're gonna establish a very, very strong, capable, and versatile development team. Okay, because at the beginning we simply had to build the product, and then came, other go-to-market, operational, and other obvious, stuff that we also need to hire. So at the beginning, it was more around how we collect and group together some of the brightest, we simply have some of the brightest developers in the world to develop this very complex product. And there were different approaches, but eventually what turned out to be the most successful is working closer with our existing network, because it was, both of us had pretty good experience within very successful organizations in the past, whether, again, I'm mentioning IDF Intelligence Corps, where Leonid, my co-founder, had a great pool of talents coming in, who has this mentality of breaking things and this mentality of some kind of fearless attitude to build everything, and everything is being, you can solve everything. So this is an approach that we truly believe in, Lighten. And the other thing that we were looking for was around, generalists. We were looking for generalists who are not afraid from any aspect of development. And our first developers, they've been capable to do everything. They've been capable to switch from different languages. They've been capable to deal with DevOps and infra, and basically everything. So I think that at the beginning, where we're just establishing a software company, you would like to hire some generalists who will be able to develop and build and try and fail everything. And after that, you suddenly have some divisions in your company, and suddenly you have different teams. But at the beginning, again, you want this fearless attitude of, we can build and crack everything.
This episode is sponsored by Vanta. You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. And obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors. But they take time and energy pulling you away from building and shipping. And that's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups like yours get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. How, you ask? Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. And the platform connects you with trusted vCISOs to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. Join over 8,000 companies, including many Y Combinator and Techstars startups who trust Vanta. Simplify compliance and get $1,000 off at vanta.com/codestory. That's VANTA.com/codestory.
Well, let's flip to scalability. So did you build this to scale efficiently from day one, or are you fighting this as you grow?
We build it to adjust the scale of, the prospects that we know. This is the honest answer. So, for example, from our end, even at the beginning, we've been able to support customers having up until something like hundreds of instances running in parallel, because it was pretty straightforward for us that the majority of the early adopters wouldn't deploy Lighten in thousands or tens of thousands instances in real production environments at the beginning where we weren't mature enough. So for testing purposes and design partners, the scale was pretty straightforward. Like tens of instances is low, whereas hundreds of them is something that we should aim for. So this is what we've done. Now that we already grew the organization and we support like some of the biggest enterprises out there, obviously we already support the scale of tens of thousands of instances per organization, which is very, very impressive. And again, now we already have some organized process where we collect data about prospects, so we are being prepared and we are not being surprised by their size, scope, expectations, etc. Even at the beginning, we identified that some of the heavy regulated enterprise organizations that we're gonna work with, they're gonna have some issues with data privacy, compliance, as I mentioned before. So even at the beginning, it was very important for us to have some sort of a version that is being deployed in their premises without any information going out. So even at the beginning of when we just started Lighten, we had two ways to support customers. One is our very simple to use SaaS product, and the second one is a very lightweight on-premise deployment, which assists them to maintain and manage the whole data flow within the organization. So even at the beginning, we already had that line of product, and this is something that you don't see a lot in early stage companies, and is derived based on our experience working with other startup companies before, and we simply suffered from this lack of support for these enterprise companies when the company grew. So it was pretty clear for both of us that we want to support this motion even at the beginning, even in early days. And it worked like magic. It simply allowed us to penetrate to some heavy regulated, really big organizations straight from the beginning.
That's great. I love it that it worked like magic. That's I can feel your confidence in saying that. That's great.
Thanks. No, I appreciate it.
Well, as you step out on the balcony and you look across all that you've built, what are you most proud of?
The thing that I'm most proud of is the team. I'm leaving aside the product because the product is still evolving and we have so many ideas of how we're going to build this platform, so many tests to conduct. But the thing that I am so proud of is our team. We've built this team of rock stars. It sounds like very cliche, but it is it is true, and from the management team that is very sharp, strategic, and has some great domain expertise, and we really brought some great people from the greatest companies in the dev space that we're dealing, like leaders coming from Snyk and JFrog. So this is one thing that I mentioned, and the other one is some great and hungry young people and employees that joined us with this mission of working very hard and eventually achieving success within their work at Lighten. The other thing that I'm proud about the team is that it seems like we can do everything. Again, this fearless and competitive spirit, and still have fun. So I think it's very important, and I can tell you that myself and even others that I'm talking with them on a day-to-day basis, we simply enjoy arriving in the office. So I think this is the thing that I'm most proud of.
Well, let's flip the script a little bit. So tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
Yeah, I can give you one. I think we weren't smart enough to establish a strong leadership team at the beginning. We built this organization bottom up, which has some great advantages. But eventually, I think that we should have hired the VP management level a bit before. And this is very important when you want to scale very fast, because managers are crucial in order to scale the organization. So this is something that I simply couldn't anticipate that we're gonna grow so fast, and we're gonna raise this amount of money in a pretty short period of time. So once that happened, I can say that, again, retrospectively, I'll be happy to have more leaders in the company to be able to support the fast pace that we should adjust. So I'm very happy to mention that now we're succeeding in building this management level, but I think that retrospectively, again, it was better to happen before.
So what does the future look like for the product and for your team?
So let's start with the team. As mentioned before, now it's the phase where we are scaling the organization and scaling the business, because obviously the first phase at any given startup company is this product market fit. Once the product market fit, once we achieve that, and we saw daily repetitive use cases inside the organization and also in between organizations, we got this confidence that we have a great product, that now we should scale it. So in terms of hiring and team, again, we're now 30 people. We're gonna be 60 employees in 3 quarters from now, and we're gonna finish the next year something like 75 employees. So we're gonna grow very fast, okay? And this means that we're gonna enrich and empower our team with more and more go-to-market hires. So again, at the beginning, we've been hiring mainly greatest developers, and now on top of this, R&D and product and engineering stuff that we constantly grow, we also grow and establish more and more go-to-market hires, whether it's sales, developer relations, community, marketing, etc. So this is how the future looks like in terms of team. In terms of product and strategy and vision, we're gonna simply become the standard of how developers being able to better observe, understand, and debug live applications. Again, we see great tools out there, or observability tools which allow operators to maintain production environments. But as I claimed before, we want to shift left observability and become the de facto standard of the right tooling which assists developers to gain, to define, to observe live applications from dev to production.
I like how you simply put a huge goal of to simply become the standard. I love that. I love your aspirations, and that's the way to do it.
Exactly. We truly believe that we're about to build a huge company here. We're gonna be the de facto standard, or the de facto best friend of developers to observe live applications. And the distributed world where we live today, it's simply a must, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't happen. So from my perspective, it's a matter of execution.
Well, let's switch to you, Ilan. Who influences the way that you work? A CEO, CTO, architect, really any person that you look up to, and why?
I have some, I would call it mentors. Some of them are investors of here at Lighten. Some of them are just friends. I really try to have some domain experts in each aspect that I must deal with as part of my day-to-day. And I will give you a few examples. As a CEO, we suddenly enforced to deal with finance, with product, with go-to-market, with sales, with marketing, with product, with strategy. So in each vertical here, I surrounded myself with the best people in the world from one hand. Okay, so I simply have the best people in the world to consult with at each vertical. But at the same time, I also surrounded myself with some, let's call it friends, right? Which are other entrepreneurs or other domain experts in the same verticals that are, running something like a year ahead of me, half a year ahead of me. Because I found that having the best experts in the world advising you is great, but you want to have some others who are simply struggling with the same day-to-day as you are. So it was important for me, again, to surround myself and the CTO and even other executives here at the team with both levels of support. The close network who were just heading us with half a year or year, and the second level of experts, which are the greatest in the world, so you're being guided by the best people out there. So this is something that guides me, myself, my co-founder, and other leaders in the company as well.
We talked about a mistake earlier, but a little bit different spin. If you could go back to the beginning, what would you do differently, or where would you consider taking a different approach?
I will start marketing and go-to-market efforts much earlier. You tend to think that you want to first develop a great product, then gain some confidence with customers, and then start working on go-to-market. And my perspective today has been changed. If I would start Lighten all over from the beginning, I would start marketing and go-to-market efforts from the beginning, even without having one single line of code written. For sure. Because this is a question that I've been asked from time to time, and this is an answer that I'm sure I would do differently in another scenario.
Well, last question, Ilan. So you're getting on a plane, and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world. Can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person having gone down this road a bit?
I think my advice would be, eventually we're dealing with people. So the humanity, and you should be careful, and you should truly care about people that surround you, whether it's employees, partners, customers. You should really care about them, because eventually it's very easy to turn yourself to a numbers guy where you look at numbers and you're very analytical, and obviously we're required to do so, but eventually the people are, eventually the motivators and the executors. So I think from time to time in this very competitive landscape where you should, achieve very ambitious goals within a very short period of time, it's very important to be surrounded by people you really care and they care about you, and you have some unified mission. So I think that eventually, again, it's very easy, to be very results oriented, but we are dealing with people. So I think that this would be my tip. This would be my 2 cents for this early entrepreneur.
That is fantastic advice. I appreciate that. Well, Ilan, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story of Lighten.
Thank you very much, Noah. Appreciate it.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. Support the show on patreon.com/codestory for just $5 to $10 a month. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
Taxes was waiting around for your taxes to be done, which led to worrying about not getting any money back. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes in a day to get you up to $4,000 fast with a refund advance loan. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Expert filing only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Refund advance has $0 loan fees and 0% APR. Refund advance loans may be issued by First Century Bank, N.A. or Web Bank. Terms apply. Subject to approval.